Welcome to the Synergy Podcast, the space where we redefine how we move, heal, and experience our bodies. My name is Arianna Montanari, yoga synergy teacher, beekeeper, and founder of Mielistrega Natural Body Products. Sustainability in all forms is the thread I've been following and nourishing for over 20 years. Here, we break free from the unspoken rules that tell us how we should move and feel. Here, we long for deeper connection with nature, with ourselves, through intuitive movement, self-care, and self-awareness. We explore what it truly means to work with the body instead of pushing against it, to understand it rather than criticize it. So whether you're a yogi, a seeker, or simply curious about stepping into a more liberated way of living, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Synergy Podcast. My name is Arianna and I am your host. Today's guest is Kari Hovik, which is a pretty Nordic name and surname. So in my head, it's Kari Hovik.
That's how my ancestors probably used to say it.
Right? So it's like how it sounds in my mind and how I need to pronounce it. So, Kari, you are a somatic coach for women who are in pivotal, transitional seasons in their lives. Can be career, in relationships, and really in womanhood overall. Your work blends nervous system regulation as the foundation and thoughts and passions work, human design, and identity work with feminine wisdom woven all the way through. You believe that every single woman, let's say every human, every person is one of one, so uniquely made and conditioned society kind of made who we are. And from there, we kind of can work our way in it, around it, over it. And, this is what we need to work with. So, Kari, welcome to the Synergy Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I could have these conversations over coffee, over wine, over any time of day. This is how I know this is what I've been put on this planet to do and to talk about and to normalize. So I'm so excited to just get into whatever we get into today.
Let's not do some small talks.
Oh, I don't know how to do it. You would not have a very good podcast if that's what you wanted me to do.
Just like a side note for our listeners, we met here on Zoom and we went like straight into talking about very deep conversations. Like, okay, pause, everybody.
Hit play.
Exactly. Let's start recording this. This is so good. Just a casual chat.
Yeah.
So you and I met in a coaching container. So we have been sharing weekly calls and going through life. So it's like a very beautiful and really meaningful for you to be here. So you and I can share thoughts more intimately. There's more space for you to share what you're working with. So you wrote a statement that I'd love to quote, if that's okay with you, as a starting point for our conversation. And you wrote, as we move into this new era, the rise of the individual is going to be paramount. When you are so completely connected to yourself, you have no choice but to see that you are connected to everyone else as well. We cannot heal or grow or expand within the same systems or consciousness that made us so docile. So, right, with that said, could you expand on that and maybe tell us about your journey, our statement, because that's powerful.
Wow, I'm like, dang, I wrote that, didn't I? I mean that. Crazy. Yes. So I mean that with my whole heart. As women, especially as human beings on this earth, we are all designed so uniquely different. We are not all cut from the same cloth, which is the most beautiful, should be like pressure is off everybody. We came here for such specific reasons, whether those are grand or whether those are just like in your day-to-day life. And it is up to us to rid ourselves of the conditioning of it has to be done a certain way. You need to be here by a certain time. You need
Mm.
this with your body. You need to be X, Y, and Z by X, Y, and Z. Sorry, that's a dusty blueprint, and we're not doing it anymore. We're just not doing it anymore. But we can't also, unless we see the confines of the systems that we're in, unless we can point out our own conditioning, unless we can name it, we can't move through it. So, very, very passionate about helping, guiding, mirroring women back to themselves. I've recognized, and I'll get into my journey, that as I develop myself as a leader to myself and then also leader to other women, nobody's a guru. Nobody is the one who has all the answers. We have all the answers. And so you just need to pay attention to the energy that you feel from people. And if we all need each other, so resonating with different people to help you guide yourself back to you. That is the ticket to everything. So, who am I? How did I get to this place? I grew up in California, so born and raised in the Bay Area, followed a very typical, just kind of like ho-hum path. We were just talking before the podcast started about being uncomfortable, and sometimes you need to be uncomfortable in order for things to change. I think actually early life, I was made so uncomfortable by parents' divorce and just kind of not being fully held. I was the only girl in my family that I kind of froze. So it was almost like I didn't even feel the discomfort because I was so frozen within my own nervous system, which that's a through line. We'll get there. So I kind of
Mm.
just went through the motions, very, very like methodically, neither up nor down, but I went through the motions. Went to college, did the whole thing, got married when I was 27. Within 9 months of getting married, there was infidelity and there was divorce. Boom. That right automatically, all of a sudden, I went from being frozen to, oh my gosh, I have not been awake in my own life. I didn't go to like the vindictive, get out of here, screaming, which goes to show again the kind of the state of my nervous system. I was very, very calm, which was probably a bit of the frozen stuck,
Mm.
but I something switched inside of me that said, we don't know who we are. We got to figure this thing out. So that kicked off, gosh, that was in 2011. So that kicked off a 15-year discovery journey. So within that time, I did the whole Christian church thing. And a little caveat too, I kind of grew up Mormon. I say kind of because my dad's side of the family is Mormon. We would kind of go, we wouldn't always go. So then there was also this just kind of like ambiguous relationship with religion, which I actually think helped me not have to heal from a very Puritan religion. I wasn't quite fully in
Mm.
it. But it also weaves through the story as well. So I think right when the divorce happened, I sought out God. It was kind of the first thing where I was like, okay, let me, I need something. I need something bigger than me. I need something to anchor me. So I did that for a few years. And then I got the intuitive hit because I started developing my intuition. I was like, I'm going to move to Seattle. Again, living in the San Francisco Bay Area. I decided to quit my job and move to Seattle, which seemed risky, but again, I was doing so much work on my intuition. So that was kind of the first big, I trusted myself, I did it, and it worked out. I think, side note too, when we're learning and we're going on our journey, we have to keep looking for the evidence of how it worked, how it has worked out. So this reference point has stuck with me for the whole 15 years I've been on this journey. Like, viscerally, I knew how that felt, and then I knew what transpired afterwards. So I moved to Seattle, didn't have a job, found a job 3 weeks later, and it set me on the course for an entire career in tech. Met my best friends, best friends up in Seattle. And again, really just started still cultivating and honing this like, who am I as a woman? What journey am I on? What's going on? So that was still pretty much tied to, I would say, religion. I was still Christian, developing my relationship to God. And about a year after moving to Seattle, I just didn't start, like, my body just felt like it was off. I lost my period. I'm like, what is going on? It was the very first, now I look back, I'm like, oh, I was probably de-thawing from being frozen.
Mm.
But my body started kind of speaking to me, and I'd never experienced that before. So once again, I was just like, something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with me. And I just was kind of grappling with that. And that led me to be like, wait, am I having like a spiritual awakening? And again, I had no language for this. I had no, I thought I was going nuts. I'm just like, what is happening here? And so, but it, again, talking about that pressure, there was just enough discomfort in my body to make me ask questions, to make me get really, really curious as to what am I feeling and where am I supposed to be going and where am I headed? I think that was around the time too, where I think religion started meaning less to me and recognizing like my relationship to something bigger is
Mm.
the guiding force. It's less about it has to be within this construct. So I really, no shade. I just kind of, it grew into something bigger than rules or kind of, yeah, that the system of
Mm.
totally. So during this time, again, I am traveling the world with work. Building, so I was in university recruiting. So I was building programs for young college kids to get jobs within the tech companies that I was working for. So within the corporate world, it was actually very fruitful. It was like a very aligned and fruitful career. I always knew in the back of my head, I'm like, there's got to be something more. There's got to be something more. There's got to be something more. So again, all these things kind of simultaneously happening. A few years into living in Seattle, maybe 5, I was like, uh-oh, I'm starting to get that hit again. I'm starting to like, where do I want to go? Do I need to leave this job? Do I need to move back to the Bay Area? Just something wanted to move. And it was right around that time I was interviewing for a few companies, and one of them was Nike in Portland, where I live in Portland now. I was like, that's it. That's my next step in terms of career. Didn't work out with Nike, but something about Portland like viscerally felt so good to me. I'd been to Portland twice. I didn't know. I had no idea. But it was still, again, going back to that same feeling of when I moved to Seattle, something was stirring and I'm like, I need to do this. So I walked into my director's office and I was like, can I move to Portland and work remote? This was before COVID. I look back, I'm like, who did she think she was? That's crazy. His words verbatim, tell me when you're going to move and tell me when you want to tell the team. I was like, okay,
Wow.
okay, okay. So that set on this next journey of like moving someplace, didn't know a soul, didn't know anybody. First time like living by myself in a new city. And it felt like that was my cocoon. It was
Mm.
really, it was just, it held me as I did even more inner deep feminine work now. It kind of moved from, okay, let's explore to like, who am I as a woman? This is when I first, for anyone who's read The Women Who Run with the Wolves book, that is
Mm.
I would highly recommend if you haven't read it. That was one of the first books I bought like after a few days of living in Portland, and I think it just changed everything. It got me so curious again about this feminine wisdom and our intuitive nature and just our instincts and just our wild self that's been so dulled and dulled and dulled.
Mm.
I'm going to speed this along because I could go off forever.
But
Here's
but I hear that this really inspired you. It's like, oh, this resonates with me. Ooh.
yes. So living in Portland now, again, I'm doing this deep inner work. COVID hits, so it's like perfect cocoon. I'm like, sweet. I'm like, I thrived during COVID. I'm like, this is great. I'm already living by myself. I'm in this cocoon. I'm like, great. Now I don't feel like I have to go out and perform or I have to be around people. Like it was very insular. But then something starts stirring again. I'm like, oh gosh, what now? What now? I'm like, what is leading me now? So I got this hit. I was like, put your stuff in storage and just start traveling. I was like, okay. So I did, and I traveled the southwest of the US. I spent a lot of time in New Mexico. I spent a lot of time in California on the Oregon coast. And the Oregon coast is a pivotal part of the story because that's where I met my now partner, but I didn't know he would become my partner then. I'd been single for 10 years. So that was a big part, again, of like my growth and my awakening. Ended up after the road trip coming back to Portland and reconnected to this guy that I met on the Oregon coast. And we, yeah, started dating, which was such a big deal because, again, I had not been in a partnership for so long. And we all know we heal in partnership too. So much of our relational wounds we try to heal on our own. It's not until you get into partnership and you're mirrored back. I'm like, I thought this was already healed. Why is this back up? But that's been a huge part of the journey too. I moved to the Oregon coast for a bit. This is where everything really starts speeding up. So once I got back from the road trip, lived in Portland, met my partner, moved to the Oregon coast for a bit. Then he lost his job. I was already house hunting, decided to move the job or the house hunting search back to Portland. He found a job in Portland. The month I signed my mortgage, I got laid off from the tech job. And that's where I feel like let the games begin. That was such a long spiel to get to where we are today.
Wow.
That layoff, because of everything that came before that, right? I think that when you get laid off, sometimes it's a total shock to the system, but most of the time there's a lot of rumblings that something might be happening. And so I've been kind of preparing. This industry is very volatile. What would happen? What would happen if that happened to me? And again, in my connection to God, for maybe 2 years, I was like starting to feel like this can't be it. This can't be the only thing I'm here for. And in those conversations and in me really sinking in, I just kept hearing, just wait it out. It's not your time. You're not supposed to leave. I'll let you know when it's time. I'll let you know when it's time. I'm like, okay, okay. So when the layoff happened, I was like, boom. Okay, here we are. Like here we go. And thank goodness for like younger me set me up financially. I recognize when people get laid off, they don't always have the ability to sit there and really feel into what wants to come next. And for whatever reason, younger me had this saving mentality. So I was able to really take that summer. This was a year and a half ago. Year and a half. Yeah. So I was able to take that summer and really sit with what wanted to come through. This is where I really dug into my human design. This is really where I let that like be lived out loud. And I would say within 4 or 5 months of after being laid off, after like grappling with a few ideas, this idea of really creating a space for women going through these big life transitions just completely boom. It wasn't even like oh, maybe it was like, and this is what I'm doing now. This is what I'm doing now. So that was, yeah, a year and a half ago. I launched my business last January. So it's just been a year.
Congratulations.
If we think that 15-year journey did anything, I would say this last year, everyone who's started a business, I know you can relate. You haven't done self work until you've done something like this. It will test everything. Again, you can do all this internal work on your own until you have something to pressure you. You're a little bit uncomfortable. That is when you're going to be tested and stripped down to the studs to really become the woman who can hold it all. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking now because I didn't go into that much of a spiel, but it's just life transitions, the in between. This is where you get to decide, am I living in my own condition or in conditioning, or am I choosing? Like, am I living? Every time we enter one of these seasons, we get to make the choice to ground deeper into ourselves and to really cultivate like our own North Star and be like, who am I and where am I headed and where do I want to go and who was I sent here to be?
That's powerful. And I'm glad you actually took the time to take the long way to
My
are
gosh.
now, because there's so much, it's so important. And I think that we keep on going forward and forward and forward and expand and change and adapt. Yet once in a while, it's very powerful to just stop and say, observe, reflect upon the way, what's behind you. What have you already achieved? What have you gone through? And now just by listening to you talking about all these shifts, I can really relate to them. Because that feeling, am I alive? Am I awake? Like unplug the plug, right? Am I living my life just passively, just out of because this is how it is? And for me, I think it shifted really after university. So I I did my exchange term here in Sweden, actually. Then I started traveling. I lived in Australia. I lived in Reunion Island, an island close to Madagascar. And for me, it felt like that was such a huge spiritual awakening that if I compared it to living normal life, it was like sleeping. And for me, traveling, living abroad, it was like, because you are aware, you're
Totally.
attentive, your eyes are open, your senses are open. You need to, there's much more resistance.
There's a
Mm,
resistance.
mm.
Also, something that's been kind of a theme, and I'm like, oh my gosh, when you step outside of just like the normal, whatever normal is, but the things that you're used to, stepping outside of that gives you a new reference point. Reference points through these in-between transitional seasons too are so, so imperative. And a reference point could mean, yeah, waking up to deeper parts of yourself. It could mean finding a mentor who's been where you're trying to go. Just, or a book, a quote at the right time, a podcast right at the right time, these reference points to really anchor you into like, okay, I'm crazy. I'm just experiencing a brand new perspective. And this is a chance for me to like, I'm so uncomfortable, but this ain't it anymore. I'm not quite yet here. So these reference points of like where you're at in the journey also are so freaking important. And they're usually really freaking uncomfortable.
While I was reading while I was like talking about like your introduction, transformational and pivotal moments, for me, it feels like the past 6 to 7 years has been a constant pivotal moment, and realized that that's my new normal.
Totally.
And I caught myself thinking while I was talking, will there be a time where it's not a pivotal moment?
Yes. Oh
Very
my God.
interesting.
I love this because literally for the last 15 years, I'm like, well, this is me now. I am just always healing. It's another reminder that we are not fixed.
Mm,
We are not fixed. We are not fixed. This is something, again, I wouldn't have known this a year ago. Like, I
mm,
had to go through the trenches of excavation and really understanding my body, right? A lot of this stuff was spiritual. I'm very like heady. I can go up to the clouds and stay there forever, right? I am learning to ground it down into my body and then let it come up and out into the real world. However, we can get so caught in these cycles of healing, which this is also this self-trust that we develop. We have to believe, if we haven't gotten there yet, again, we might not have the reference point that this season will ever end. But
mm,
when it does, because it inevitably will, that is our new reference point for whatever the next chapter brings. And so if we find ourselves in another kind of transitional, like, ooh, now we have these reference points of like, okay, here I am on this journey. And
mm,
again, if you are so in your body and you have so much self-trust, you will inevitably know, especially as women, we know if we can get rid of the conditioning, we know when the chapter is complete and we know when
mm,
we're still in it and that there's still more left to do, right? We can't follow someone else's blueprint. We can't say like, okay, well, these usually take 7 years, so okay, at the year 7, I'll be done. It's like, I wish. Yes, I wish that's how this worked. But that's why understanding ourselves at a cellular level, as women especially, is so powerful for the staying power it takes to move through these transitional seasons and to know you will not stay there forever, even if
mm.
it takes 15 years, even if it takes 6 or 7 years. It's like it's almost developing this thought, this idea of like however long you universe, God, whatever, work your through me, and I will be a steward however long it needs to take, because I know on the other side, I will be more me,
Mm.
more light, more free, more in my body than I've ever been before. And there is no price tag. We've all had those moments of like just lightness, like pressure's off. We know that feeling. That is what we aspire to when we are so grounded in ourselves. No one can take that from us.
You left me speechless. Like, what can I say? Well, talking about spirituality, you even gestured with your hand so that spirituality used to be something up there, something more ethereal. So I would like to know how how did you live through it? So from living, experiencing spirituality as more an abstract thing, first maybe God, and now maybe thinking of the creator or the energy, the oneness. And how, what does it mean to translate it in your body? What does it mean to feel it in your body?
Oh, I love
Can you
this.
translate this so that we can make it more accessible? What does it mean?
Which I think one of the reasons I do this work is to make it, and we've talked about this before too, make it accessible. Bring it into like everyday humanness, because I think there's so much of the spiritual community world feels very inaccessible to certain people. Like if you aren't like ethereal and woo-woo and you aren't meditating or doing this, people are like, oh, that's not for me. When literally you get to a place when you've done all these things and you're like, this cup of coffee is one of the most spiritual experiences of my life because it is so warm. It tastes so good. And the ritual of drinking this every single morning brings me so much peace and groundedness. Like, this cup of coffee is spiritual to me now. Like, these conversations, this is spiritual. Anything that is just bigger than you, anything unseen, anything that you're like, I don't know how that happened, but it did. I didn't construct the way that that went down, but like whatever made it happen, thank you. That's spirituality. Spirituality could mean your relationship to God. It could mean how you feel when you're on a hike. It could mean looking at the ocean and being like, what, oof, what is that thing? Like, how, that's crazy. It's living in awe of all of the things that you can't comprehend with your logical mind. So anything that's not, and logical things can be spiritual too. It's all the way that we look at it, but it's your energy. It is love. It is, and not like, again, yes, we are love, right? But some people who are so practical and logical are like, what does that mean? And I'm like, yeah, I get that. I've been that person. I understand it now. How do you interact with the people that you love? How do you interact with strangers? How are you living in integrity? How are you loving up on your dog, on your cat? Whatever it is, everything is just this exchange, which can be spiritual and energetic, but it's also just anything greater than yourself, anything you can't quite explain to me is spiritual. So everyone gets to define it how they want to. And then every single day in the mundane things, I feel like that's actually where spirituality can show up best because we're already doing those things. How do you give it a little bit more zhuzh? How, like when you are brushing your teeth, I mean, that's kind of an out there one, but like, how do you just make sure you're doing it with intention?
And presence?
Presence, you're paying attention. You pay
Mhm.
attention, you will be mind blown at the things that like you just haven't even noticed. And so it's just, again, spirituality, anything bigger than you, anything you can't explain, and then bringing that awe and that wonder. Because we got one shot, I mean, at least in this form, on this earth for this
Mm.
life, right? Why not romanticize the hell and give this kind of sense of like, oh my gosh, I am not in charge of how this stuff goes down. Just live in awe of it, live in wonder of it. Bring it into your coffee.
You know, I met up with a friend this morning, and she was saying how she asked the universe for a sign because there are some situations in her life that she doesn't like. And She told me how she was going to the gym. She has her headphones on and she's all in her bubble going to the gym. And outside the gym, a man just stops her, like grabs her arm and says, "Excuse me." And you have to know that here in Sweden, you don't do that. It's like it
I think that's
never happens. So,
everywhere. Yeah.
mm, and well, so they start talking, and this was like an older man. They have things in common. And in the end of the conversation, he tells her, "You need to get away from negative energy." So she was like, okay, a man she had never seen before. She has no clue where he came from. So just this being connected, aware, your eyes open for signs, and there you go.
Right.
You ask, you get.
It's everywhere. And this is also, again, I know we were going to talk a little bit about human design, which is one of the things that, again, has helped me on my journey. One of the things that I really love helping clients to kind of incorporate as well. But we each are so uniquely designed that we have ways in which we call in opportunities to us. And then we also have ways in which we know what our yes and our no feels like. So depending on your human design type, like for me, I respond to the environment around me. So when I was going back to when I got laid off and I was trying to think about what comes next, I put myself, because I'm a responder, meaning I get inspiration from either like a book I read, a conversation I have, or I'm not meant to kind of create things out of thin air, which was like also, oh, thank God, because I feel like I've struggled at that. It
Interesting.
allowed it permission to be like, now I get to just walk into the world and vibe off of what I see. I'm like, okay, that resonated, that didn't. That feels good, that didn't. And that's again, we got to get real clear on what yes and no feels like in our body, but we can take it a step further with human design. And I love it because it's also it does you don't have to if it doesn't resonate with you, don't use it. But guaranteed. So if you delve into it, you'll be like, oh my gosh, that does sound like how I've made decisions in the past. It's just giving you more information and more confirmation. So yeah, with your friend, it was like, okay, give me a sign, give me a sign. I bet you she might be a responder. And she's like, boom, okay, thank you.
Right.
There's the
Oh,
thing I needed. But it's everything is here for us. Everything is energy. Everything is like conspiring. You just kind of have to tap in, which again, I know can sound so woo-woo, but it's really not. It's actually really, really simple. We
mm.
make it very complex. Very complex.
Yeah, somehow there's a part of ourselves that is so proud to admit to that. Yeah, we're all energetical, magnetic, vibrating beings that are connected to the same plug, to the same source. Like why do we make it so hard to accept it?
Totally. I think,
Work with it.
and you know what the answer to that is conditioning. The reason we can't plug in is
Mm.
it's either like we've been conditioned to think that's woo-woo, that's crazy. It's for them sitting on top of a mountain and meditating for 25 days, right? It's like we develop these stories because as human beings too, we want to make meaning. And so if we've never been exposed to something like that because of how we were raised, the cultures that we are in, the communities that we are in, that's also such a big part of this too. Even though our cultures are so beautiful and they make us who we are, we also get to decide which parts have been a detriment to us, which parts have actually held us back from believing we can go after X, Y, and Z, or believing that we can trust ourselves because this culture that we were raised in didn't teach us that.
Let's go back to human design because I think everybody, right, how everybody loves to hear something about themselves. So get a little like what is human design and then tell us how you use it and how one could use it in life.
Totally. So human design really is just like your energetic blueprint. And people are like, what? Energetic, what? Like, what are you saying? And when you think about it, literally everything that's running through our body, it's just energy. Even our emotions are energy. It's
Mm.
just, there's constant energy moving through us. The things that we like, the things that we don't, the way that we show up to certain things and we're nervous or that we're not, right? That's energy.
I want to take a moment to talk about something truly special and close to the heart. Miele Strega, my own line of natural handmade body products. And as you know, I am passionate about moving with ease and feeling good in our bodies, and that extends to what we put on our skin. Each batch of Miele Strega products is crafted with love, for real, by me, using ingredients from my very own beehives and my darling bees, combined with the pure botanicals. Whether it's a soothing, luxury whipped body butter, a nourishing lip balm, or a gentle soap, everything is designed to support your body's natural rhythm, just like the practices we explore here. If you're looking for skincare that's pure, it's intentional and deeply connected and aligned to nature, check it out at mielestrega.com. And because you're a listener, I've got a special gift for you. Use the code SYNERGY10, spelled with Y and Y, for 10% off your first order. Now, back to our conversation.
So human design is just kind of mirroring back to you, and it's based on your birthday, your birth time. So a lot of like the astrological markers. And the 4 or 5 main energy types. So there's so much to go into, but you're either a generator, a manifesting generator, a projector, a manifester, or a reflector. So generator and manifesting generator are going to be the two most, not popular, but most of the population are going to fit into these 2 categories. Right. So just so high level. So generators are doers. These are the people who, once they are kind of lit up by something, they can just build and build and build and do and have a lot of stamina, which when you look at like, okay, why are generators make up most of the population? Because most of the population, we need people to do, we need people to kind of like produce. Where, again, conditioning gets it wrong is that we, let's say like in the corporate world or whatever kind of role you're in or system that you find yourself in, everyone's expected to be a doer and not everyone's meant to be. And so it just like, we could just honor how people use their energy. We would be such a better society. We've had such better institutions, all of that. So again, generators, doers. Manifesting generators, that's what I am. It's this doing mentality, but it's also, we're very, very fast and we also pivot and we're very non-linear. So whereas generators kind of tend to give their energy to a particular thing at a time, manifesting generators are like boom, bap, boom, bap, 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 bap. I'm like, is this manifesting generator? Or is this ADHD? I don't know. It could be both. But yeah, we like to have different things going at once. Like I can't just have one tab open. I'm like dilly dally here, dilly dally here. I need just kind of like this constant, just a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And again, once our yes is lit up, once we know that's the direction in which we should go, very fast, we are off to the races, which goes to, again, when I was thinking about building my business or was thinking about what I wanted to do, the minute that yes dropped into my body, no time, boom, built. And now this is another thing about me. I have no problem jumping off a cliff. Like, I'm like, wee, this is going to be great. As I'm barreling down towards the earth and all these lessons are coming, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I think that's that manifesting generator energy where it's like, yes, when our yes is lit up, we're going to go for it and we're going to learn the lessons while we're barreling towards the earth, while we're like figuring everything out. Do you know what yours is? Manifester, not manifesting generator, but manifester. Okay. So manifestors, you guys are the initiators. You guys do have the ideas, right? You guys, boom, I have this brand new idea, right? Which I felt
a blessing and a curse.
And all your energy, boom, goes straight to it. And then your energy goes night night. I don't have anything else to give because I've this thing up. Now you need a generator to come in and like run the thing, right? energy to sustain it. You're only supposed to kind of like build things up and then really take rest. So I was, again, when I recognize that that's not how I am in the corporate world, I always felt I was in leadership positions and I'm like, I don't have anything to add, or I just don't have a brand new idea. I'm suck at this, right? In my mind, I was like, I'm not very good.
Mm.
When I realized that's not how my energy works, I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God. I'm
That's
not
why.
supposed to, right? And so it's so powerful. And yeah, manifestors, we need you guys. You guys are the ideas. You guys are like the new thing. And then you need people to come in and kind of facilitate how that thing is going to move through the world. That resonates.
I need to team up with a generator.
Totally. Yep. So, and then you have projectors. Projectors are like our ooey gooey healers. They are our people who can see systems and they can see kind of like, oh my gosh, we need to do this differently. They need to be invited in though, right? They're not like super, even though they're projectors, they're not going to insert themselves unless they're invited in because they have very deep insight. And I feel like I wanted to be a projector so bad. I'm like, wait, I'm not one. This sucks. But, right, it is just these people who can see underneath the surface and who can kind of anticipate the changes that need to be made. And then we also, again, everything's about teamwork. They need to also team up with people who can then kind of sustain that vision. So they're very, again, they're like the healers. They're the people who can see kind of the faults in the system and the breaks and the people who can really bring that awareness to light. And then reflectors are going to be the least common, and they are just actual mirrors. Like they live in 28-day cycles. So they literally are like so lunar in they're very, very like ethereal, but they're here to kind of reflect back to you what you're doing so that we can then kind of make changes. And so they're also on the cutting edge too of like new world kind of stuff too, because they're reflecting back to us what doesn't work. They'll reflect what's working. And so they're just actual like mirrors to everybody. And so it's very, very rare, but so powerful and so needed. So as you can kind of see these different camps of energy types, and you can see how conditioning, it's almost like we're experiencing just collective burnout because everyone has been doing the same thing, trying to build the same way, and it just doesn't work. And in human design too, if you follow it, 2027 is we've been talking about this forever, but we're entering the new paradigm, which we can see it shifting and happening. We're entering into a brand,
Mm.
right? And 2027, as we enter this new paradigm, this is kind of going back to one of my beginning statements of it is going to be the rise of the individual. We've been in an era of kind of collective groupthink, and it's worked for some people, right? Some people's energy is they can follow the status quo and it works for them, and that's beautiful. But it definitely doesn't work for most people. And so, as we enter into more of this age of the individual, that can sound so selfish. It's the least selfish thing we can do to understand how we are meant to operate, to understand how, when it's time to sit back and kind of pay attention, when it's time to move, when it's time to regulate and go internal, and when it's time to use whatever's happening for the greater good of the collective. And again, as we were talking, especially here in the US right now, I mean, this environment is palpable. It is
Mm-mm.
there's just so much conflict and there's so much war of ideas, and it's going to take every individual to feel what's going on and to not bury their head in the sands, face reality for what it is. But we also need that energy. If that's anger, if that's rage, whatever it is, we need to translate that into action. We can't be like passive in this world anymore.
Mm.
And again, the new era, individually, we need to be so grounded in who we are, so locked into our intuition, so locked into our innate, especially as women, feminine knowing, our instincts, that is what's going to move us in a new direction. No one really knows where we're headed, but that's why we got to stay so close to ourselves because we can't rely on the old structures and the old systems to move us forward.
That's exactly what, well, 2 points. One, that human design really helps us to understand our functioning. And
Totally.
understanding our functioning makes so that we can use our energy more efficiently, that it's not living against the current. So much resistance that is almost like crushing us all the time. And that makes a big shift. And once we have done that, we are better prepared for the times ahead. These old
Totally.
systems, they are clearly collapsing. We are
Yeah.
living on ideas, on people, on figures, on roles, on systems that they are not sustainable. Not they cannot live any longer. And
Oh,
so
it's
while they are collapsing, we we can be ready.
totally.
Strength, knowing this is how I operate.
Yep.
I cannot allow the system to tell me how to live my life. Like you
To-
say, some people are made for doing, building.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
people are not.
No. And I think you hit on something like either way, whether you are living in conditioning or whether you are living, you're actually like really living your design, either way, you're going to feel pressure, right? Again, going back to this discomfort. We don't want to be uncomfortable, but that's how you move and that's how you evolve. But there, I'm sure everybody can drop in and recognize the difference between the pressure of being in something you know is wrong, the pressure in sustaining a life that there's just something you're like, oh, this just I'm like dead inside. I'm not passionate. This is like I'm so drained I can hardly get off the couch because I just don't want to do that thing. Versus the pressure of like I am honing who I am and there's this natural internal pressure as I become more and more who I am. And that discomfort is like cleaner. That discomfort
Mm.
is pushing you forward as opposed to pushing you down. And so we need to, again, that's where the somatics come in too, and nervous system. Because I will say, human design is great, but unless you also understand your nervous system and understand what regulation feels like in your body, your human design will stay on the paper. Your human design will stay as an idea. You won't trust yourself enough to actually be like, I'm going to make a decision based on what my design is telling me, how I operate.
I think that you said this feels dead inside, this feels heavy, this feels like something wants to push you down. This is how it feels anytime you turn on the news. So that's the feel, like as you spoke the words, it just clicked like, yes, wow, this
Yep,
is exactly how it doesn't feel like we're promoting wellness,
totally.
peace, connectedness. We it feels like, so how can we balance there? How can we juggle with all of these and
It's
stay sane?
totally, it's so interesting too, because when we turn on the news or we are being confronted with the reality of the world, we shouldn't feel good, right?
Mm,
We actually, right? We should be enraged. We should feel
right.
something. And as you're watching that, you also get to determine, ooh, the way this is being presented to me doesn't feel like congruent. That does not feel like they want the best for us, right?
Mm,
And you have to be so clear in your body to recognize like that is for their own agenda. They're not trying to, so be aware of everything that's happening. No, they want us. You can feel the friction of like wanting us scared and wanting us docile. So it's
yeah.
again, this is where it's simple, but it's complex because you have to be so attuned to we should be outraged right now. We should be like, hold on, this is not okay because that pressure will move us forward and you need to take aligned action.
Mm.
But it's also self-responsibility comes in. Where are you getting that information from? Are you gobbling up any kind of information left and right because you feel like that's going to keep you informed? There's such a difference between being informed for inform's sake. If you're not going to do anything with that, if you're not going to move
Yeah.
whatever's feeling coming up and through your body to then take action. And so many people are like, take action. Like, well, what am I supposed to do? I can't do anything about
Exactly.
action means regulation, but within your own life. And regulation does not mean calm.
Hmm. Hmm.
Times it can, but regulation means that you are able to be an observant of literally that's reality. What is actually happening? Regulation means that you're not collapsing while you're watching these things go down in the world or in your own life. Regulation means you can stay super, super present. You can feel all of the things, the anger, the joy, the sadness, and then you let that move you into some type of action. Action means loving on your people. Action means loving on yourself, showing up to yourself every single day. Again, romanticize this cup of coffee. The more that you do these little, like mundane activities throughout your day, keep you more alive. And what we need right now are people who are alive, because if you are alive and you are connected, you will be able to see like this society ain't it. Like this, we need to move and think of something different. We need to become something different, and that it's everybody's individual responsibility to figure out what that means for them. And so, again, the age of the individual, but the age of the individual as humans, once we kind of heal our own internal state, we recognize how connected we all are. And so you can't heal yourself without wanting also to the best for humanity, the best for the planet, the best, like that's just naturally how healing goes. You recognize how connected you are to everybody. But if we're trying to heal on this macro scale that we don't even can't comprehend, that's keeping us in this fear loop, nothing's going to change. It has to keep coming back to the individual. And again, mundane things. Drink your coffee slower. Make sure you're nourishing yourself. Make sure you're moving and not following a blueprint because someone's like, I need to lift this amount of weight or I need to eat this amount of protein. If that feels good, please do that. But also have self-leadership and self-responsibility to know what feels good for your particular system too. It's such a micro and a macro game.
And I would also add to that that it can take time,
Oh, it's the work of a lifetime. I hate to, right. So,
uncomfortable.
oh yeah, did we
Um,
mention that part? I read in Women Who Run with the Wolves, the minute you realize that this work is forever, right? You can be like, oh God. It should feel also like pressure's off because we're not fixed. And so this version of your healing is not going to be forever, but you're constantly going to be developing a relationship to self as you grow, as you heal, as you come in contact with new people, as you come in contact with new opportunities, right? So the game of life is no longer like the ladder. It's no longer living by someone else's blueprint. The game of life, which again is forever work, is to constantly come back to your center and to your own freedom and to operating and to being so again regulated that you're allowing every single human emotion to move through you and that you are able to face the joys and also the sorrows of life, right?
and
Heal.
so I think there was something very powerful in what you said, like um, wish the others well, wish them well. Can we just not want the best for everybody?
Someone else's rise, somebody else's joy should not be in competition with your own.
Mm,
I have this term or this saying. I'm like, what's that got to do with me? In the best way, meaning, what does their success have to do with my own success? What does
mm,
right? What does their opinion have to do with me? What does that have to do with me? It like literally that statement is like, well, everything has to do with me because we're all living interchangeably. Conditioning perspective, I think that that statement is very powerful when you are getting bogged down by like the rules of society or the drama or whatever. What's that got to do with me right now? What is that? That
mm.
has no bearing on what's happening right here.
Mm. Oh, that's such an important filter. I think just like when you scroll on Instagram, when you hear the news, when you open your email, like there's so much information reaching us, so many opinions,
So
so
many
many
opinions.
problems to solve, and so many new issues that the market wants you to fix with this and that.
Which again is just like this radical self-responsibility of knowing I'm overloaded.
Mm.
I need to narrow down the ways in which I receive information. And I need to like set up systems to contain myself as I'm learning to do all these things. We could probably talk for 5 more hours, but yeah, there's just,
I think so.
it is deep, deep, deep work. It's also
Mm.
very simple and you get to do it in everyday life. I think that's one of my, like, again, my missions on this planet is I have this depth running through my body, but I'm also the way that I present it, I hope, and the way that like I have conversations is very like, oh, what's up, girl? Right? Living on this plane of
Mm.
reality too, making sure that everyone feels comfortable and confident. We don't need big woo-woo terms. We need to bring it into everyday life. Everyday people need access to this like freaking wild, spiritual, energetic world that we're actually living in.
I could listen to you talking for hours. I have to say, it must be one of your superpowers, this communication.
I'm learning to let that come up and out. My nervous system
Mm.
think otherwise. And so I don't do anything with my clients either that I haven't deeply gone through myself. And we are always deeply going through transformation. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. That's why I'm like, there are no gurus out there. There are no people who know better than you. They might be on a different path,
Further. Mm.
but that doesn't mean if the path is endless, we're all just doing the same thing. We're all just
Yeah.
turning around and being like, hey, here's what I learned. Does that
Yeah.
resonate? Sweet. Okay, let's
Mm.
further. That's all.
Mm. If somebody was feeling inspired and learning more about your work, how do they do? How?
Yes. Instagram is the best, probably starting point, and it's at, what is it? At it's.carry.kin.
Put the link in the
Yes.
bio.
And in there, there's my website. I also have a Substack that I write on just to get more long form content out there, just kind of like stream it.
Mm.
And so, yeah, definitely start on Instagram, and then all the links are listed there too.
And how do you work with people? What is it that you do?
Yes. So 3 different ways that you can kind of enter my world. The immediate way, let me back up. As I'm saying, this is like work forever. I do believe that long-term partnership is the best way to work with people. So caveat there. But I do offer as a starting point a 60-minute somatic and human design session. So if people wanted just to get familiar, maybe they need not a quick fix, but they need just like a shot in the arm right away. That is a good entry point, single session, and that is called embodied design. And then I also have the in between, and that is a curated living, breathing resource library. Because as I've been going through my journey, I recognize, like, again, I talk about reference points. I just need something to show me that I'm on the right path, or I need something to reflect back to me where I am. And so I've gathered all of these resources that I have used throughout these 15 years for people who don't necessarily want to invest on like one-on-one coaching. They're not there yet. They're just trying to get their bearings straight. I recognize I can be this way too. Sometimes I just want to explore on my own. I don't always want to like be held accountable in that way. So that is something that you can purchase, and I'm constantly updating it as I continue to grow, and it's all the in between is all very short snippets of voice notes, no longer than 4 to 5 minutes on just different topics, different hitting points, just to kind of like soothe your system and to give you again, like reorient you to like, okay, I can keep going. Okay, this is what I might be experiencing right now. So that is kind of you can do that on your own. The in
Sounds
between.
amazing.
And then lastly, my bread and butter, the cornerstone of what I do is called Reimagine, and that is 3 to 6 month private mentorship nervous system, human design, parts and patterns, identity work, astrology, whatever we need to start moving you deeper down and then out. And again, you come with whatever life stage you're at. It could just mean like something is stirring. Okay, that's what we work with. If you want to leave your job, this is what we're working with. If you're leaving a relationship or you're learning how to be in relationship, right? All of these are such pivotal moments, and the medicine is you. And these tools just help you like dig deeper into you. And I will say the biggest growth of my life in the last year has been, and I'm sure you can attest, when you are supported by somebody. Having that reference point back to you, knowing that you have this person in your back pocket, you will grow leaps and bounds. It is the greatest gift to be able to work with people one-on-one. And that's why the containers are a bit longer, because it's like my goal, I want you different. I want you transformed. I want you deeper inside yourself so that you can also like show up to the world differently. We don't want to just talk about it. We want to be about it. We want to like show up and feel different too, which is again why the nervous system is so foundational through all of this. We can't make any of these changes if we don't know how our system is actually wired and wired around our old parts and our old patterns and these old stories and these old beliefs. We got to clear the cobwebs.
So powerful, and definitely to work with a person, with a teacher, with a coach, with a mentor, one-on-one is so powerful, so life-changing, and I would say that has been the most transformational year of my life, 2025, because I've done that thing, and I, you plant seeds so that some sprout like at once. Some things you kind of, oh, this makes sense now. Some other things I still think about them now. Oh, this makes sense.
Yep. Yep.
It's really like you say, it's a work in progress. It's a work of a lifetime. Having this also intention, going in with saying, I really want to do this. Let's do it well. So no group because it's more dispersive. Let's go into having that exclusive attention from somebody.
Attention and like intention, right? Intentionality is going to grow 10 times faster than if you just willy-nilly was like, oh, this sounds good. So that's another thing. It's like I also really only want to work with women who intentionally are ready to get after it, right? Because this is deep work, in my opinion. It's so foundational. Everything else, it's not a waste of time. I shouldn't say that. But everything else is just kind of live up here until you do this it's not going to be brought into the body unless you start and build a foundation in which to then bring more of these specific things that you want from your life. But if this foundation is not set, you're going to be chasing a lot. Chasing. This is fun.
Wow. Thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom, for all these deep thoughts and chats. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me. I hope it resonates. I hope I didn't scare anybody because it's beautiful work. It's beautiful work.
Let's invite our listeners to actually comment, leave a little, or maybe DM you on Instagram. Hey, this is something that really resonated with me. This is something that I can mirror back.
I mean, it's my favorite thing to talk about. So please slide up in my DMs, please.
Thank you, Karen.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Synergy Podcast. I hope this conversation sparked something within you, a new way of thinking, feeling, or moving. If you love this episode, let me know. Share it, leave a review, or connect with me on Instagram at Mielestrega. And if you're ready to go deeper, check out my yoga offerings, come to a yoga class at the studio, and check out my handmade natural body products at mielestrega.com. Remember, your body is yours, your pleasure is yours, and living pain-free is possible. Until next time, move with ease and live with joy.